As Shiv Srivastava of the environmental justice group Fenceline Watch films the black clouds of smoke along the skyline of Houston's East End, an emissions event is occurring. At least every 2.5 days, emissions events or non-permitted emissions occur in the greater Houston area, according to our analysis here at Environmental Health News. In addition to the millions of pounds of harmful authorized emissions, these unauthorized emissions events increase communities' pollution burden. So how did we get these numbers? We analyzed 116 emissions events here in Harris County from the beginning of this year to September 17th using a database from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ.
STEER is specifically run by TCEQ and it's completely self-reporting, right? So the party that is responsible for these toxic releases is also the party that's responsible for being transparent and completely forthright about what occurred at the facility, the amounts that were emitted, when it was emitted, and the cause of it.
These events, which can include anything from a leaking valve to an industrial flare, can last anywhere from minutes to weeks, and can include chemicals ranging from climate-warming methane to cancer-causing benzene and 1,3-butadiene. A majority of these events, 97 to be exact, came from companies that had at least 2 emissions events in the past 9 months. LyondellBasell, a chemical company, had the most events for one company at 20, including events from their smaller company, Equistar. At this time, the company has not responded to EHN's request for comment. With 11 incidents, Chevron Phillips Chemical's Cedar Bayou plant had the most emissions events in a single location.
Lisa Trout, communications representative of Chevron Phillips Chemical, sent EHN an email stating that the company, quote, strives to ensure compliance, especially regarding flaring, and we are fully committed to environmental stewardship, end quote.
Out of the 116 reports we analyzed, nearly half of them, 57, mentioned flaring at least once. Flaring often removes excess chemicals by burning them and may be a last resort to avoid upsets like explosions or fires.
Flares are not, do not just emit kind of carbon dioxide and water from like classic combustion. They also emit other trace amounts of air pollutants like carbon monoxide, sometimes formaldehyde, particulate matter. All of these have known health impacts. And depending on the efficiency of the flare, you may get more or less of those particular pollutants.
According to the EPA, an efficient flare destroys 98% of compounds. But in a 2022 study, that number was closer to 91.1%, meaning that more pollutants than previously thought were entering the atmosphere.
While they serve a purpose to reduce impact to climate or health, transitioning away from the use of fossil fuels would also minimize the need to have flares in the first place.
In addition, a 2020 study found that flaring in the Eagle Ford Shale region of Texas increased the likelihood of preterm births by 50%.
Unfortunately, you have regularity of flaring events. You have a lack of transparency for community members to get it, a lack of follow-up, both with local officials and community members, and then you have a media structure that also minimizes it and normalizes it. And so that leads to a very dangerous kind of framework that our communities are forced to live in.
While information about these emissions events are publicly available, DeCarlo warns that this information might not tell the whole story.
We generally find, almost universally find, that the TRI and state inventories underestimate emissions, often very significantly.
If you'd like to examine emissions events in other Texas communities, access the databases, or learn more about the TCEQ's investigative process for these emissions events, please visit our article at ehn.org.